In this video, I want to go over practical tips that I discovered that help me stay productive and still achieve my dreams and live the life I wanted to while having BPD. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into tip number 1, which is to take advantage of your emotional lows and highs and prepare for both the high moments and the low moments and avoid perfectionism. Let's unpack this a little bit. So the thing is, with BPD, we have really intense mood swings, right? We'll feel really good sometimes, we'll feel super motivated on top of the world, and then sometimes we'll feel super down, super depressed, and just not great. And what I found that really helped me stay productive during both the lows and the highs is to kind of prepare for both scenarios, right? What I would do is I would basically kind of have two modes, right? I would have one mode for when I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling super productive, I'm feeling super happy, and I have a lot of energy and motivation, right? And when I'm kind of in that phase, when I'm in a high, when I'm in a good period of BPD, I would let myself be a little bit more productive. You know, I would do the things that I needed to do, and I would do a lot of the things I wanted to do, right? So for things I needed to do, like my jobs, like my schoolwork, stuff like that, I would keep on doing those things, but I would also have a ton of side hobbies and activities as well. So things like music, things like YouTube would be a lot more on the kind of forefront. I would be engaging in a lot more things. I'd be pushing myself a lot more and stuff like that, right? And then on the flip side, I would have another kind of mode for when I was in one of the lows or depressive episodes of BPD, right? When I would slip into kind of a low mood and I wouldn't be feeling really good for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, instead of focusing on what I need to do and what I want to do and having a ton of side passion projects and stuff like that, I would just focus on what it is that I needed to get done no matter what. And I would kind of have a list of things that I needed to do no matter what happened at the end of the day. So for example, this would be things like meetings that I cannot miss. This would be like classes or tests or exams, stuff like that. And the stuff that I needed to do for my jobs in order to keep them. And I would, kind of go strip down to the bare basics, the bare essentials when I was in these low states, right? So that can be something that really helps. And it can also help you feel not as ashamed of yourself when you do get in these low states, right? Because the thing is, with BPD, we are going to feel really sad, we are going to feel really down, and we're going to feel really good. So take advantage of the times when you feel good to be a little bit more productive, to push yourself a little bit more, to do a little bit extra. And then when you do feel low, which eventually will happen, no matter how many years of treatment you're in, you will feel low from time to time. Let yourself strip back, cut down, and just do the bare minimum and increase your self-care. Doing this simple thing can really help with your productivity because it'll make sure that you're still getting the stuff done that you need to get done, but it'll also allow you to pursue your passions, your hobbies, your dreams when you are in a good space and you do have the capacity for those things. And it'll help you eliminate a lot of that shame, right? If you know ahead of time, like when I'm sad, I'm only going to focus on these things and nothing else, and I'm going to cut down to the bare minimum, that can really help you, kind of stay on top of your stuff. Let's go ahead and dive now into tip number 2, which is you want to try and get emotional support from friends, family members, and emotional support groups in your area or therapy. So let's kind of dive into each one of these. So the first one that I'll start with is like the emotional support groups. So for a lot of people with BPD who struggle with addiction and stuff like that, things like AA, MA, NA, all of these different groups, even CODA, which is Codependence Anonymous, can be super helpful because a lot of people with BPD end up in super codependent, toxic relationships. A lot of these support groups can be super helpful, right? Because they can help you find other people who relate to you and who understand the things that you're going through. And if you don't necessarily have an addiction or a codependency or something like that, there are very often general mental health support groups. For me, on my college campus, if you're in college, you can typically find one on your campus. There was one called the Collegiate Recovery Community, and this was a general mental health group. It focused on addiction, which was very helpful for me, but it did have a general mental health focus as well, which was super helpful. And going to these groups, I met a lot of people who are very similar to me, who also had BPD, who had a lot of the same exact struggles that I did, and it made me feel a lot less alone, and it makes it a lot easier to tackle these problems when you don't feel as alone in your day-to-day life. Another thing is obviously therapy. Therapy is super helpful, but a lot of people can't afford it. There are a lot of affordable options out there. Check with your insurance company. If you're on a college campus, again, like our college campus had free therapy, so I took advantage of that. They also had free group therapy, but if you can afford therapy and you have BPD, dialectical behavioral therapy is the gold standard. Ever since I got into DBT therapy, it was super helpful. The group therapy and the individual therapy for DBT are fully worth it in my opinion. They have helped me like so much, day and night difference in how much better I felt. And then the final kind of pillar, so we have support groups, we have therapy, and then we also have friends and family. So with friends and family, it can be really tricky with BPD because not a lot of people understand how to talk to someone who has BPD, but there are two things you can do. You can either find friends and family who are supportive and who do understand how to talk to you, or two, you can kind of explain to your more understanding friends and family how to talk to you, right? So a lot of people with BPD, they have a very specific way that they need to be talked to, right? We need people to validate our emotions because we've been invalidated our whole lives and we always feel like we're crazy, we're over exaggerating, stuff like that. So we need people to tell us we're not crazy and that our feelings are valid because we do have more intense feelings than the average person. So what you can do is if you have friends and family who might be understanding or open to this, again, it's hard to find this, so use your better judgment for who you kind of try this out on. What you can do is you can actually just explain to them like, this is how you emotionally validate someone, and this is what I need when I come to you with my problems. Please don't give me solutions or advice unless I explicitly ask for it, and just tell me, like, I understand why you might feel that way. That sounds really difficult, and that'll help me kind of calm down and feel a lot more seen and heard. So I've tried this out with a couple of my friends and family members, and it actually did really help. Some people are not responsive to it, so be careful who you do it to. But again, this can help strengthen existing friendships and family who, maybe aren't as good at emotionally validating you. Perhaps this can kind of change that and help them emotionally validate you better. And also, if you can't find anyone in your life who currently does this, again, try and make friends. Go to these emotional support groups. A lot of people there will be super good at emotionally validating you. So now let's dive into tip number 3, which is simple organization. So the thing is with BPD, it's really hard oftentimes to have a complex organizational system, to be super type A and neurotic with everything, because the thing is, it's hard for us to commit to things. Again, we get super depressed sometimes and have a hard time doing basic tasks. So keeping up with a really complex organizational system using Notion or something like that can be really overwhelming and intimidating. But some simple organizational tips can be super helpful in staying productive and staying on top of your stuff while you have BPD. It can make your BPD a lot easier to manage. So here's kind of like a simple organizational thing that I would recommend, or that I did that really helped me a lot. So right now, my current organizational system is a lot more complex, but it kind of boils down to this. This is how I kind of started. First, at the beginning of each week, I would just make a list of all the different tasks I had to do. Then once I kind of had all those tasks, I would try and divide them up amongst the week, right? So if I had 3 assignments, I had 2 tests I had to study for, and then I had to complete a few tasks for my job, I would spread that out across the week. So maybe if I had a test on Wednesday and a test on Thursday, I would study for the test on Wednesday, on Tuesday, and Monday, and then I'd study for the test on Thursday, on Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? And then I would do my assignments, maybe if they were due on Friday, I would do them on Thursday and Friday. And then the stuff for work, I would kind of pepper in along the way, or maybe clean it up on the weekend if I needed to. So that's kind of, step 1. It's super simple, super basic. Just write down all the stuff you have to do and then distribute it out across the week so you know what days you're going to be doing what. But to take this a step further, if you can integrate a calendar into it as well, I found that this really helped. Having some kind of time management thing really helps. And it's kind of hard to stick to. The thing that really helped me stick to it is I'm super flexible with it, right? So what I'll do is at the beginning of the week, I'll kind of outline okay, this is the stuff I want to do. This is, how I want to get it done. This is when I'm going to get it done, all that stuff. I'll take my list of tasks, I'll, distribute it across the week, and then I'll assign time blocks to each task. So if it's Tuesday, I'm going to be studying for a test for 2 hours in the morning, then I'm going to take a break for lunch, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, etc., etc. But on the actual day that I'm doing those things, I'll be super flexible with it, right? So maybe I wake up and I'm just super tired and I need food, so I'll kind of move my food period to a little bit before I start studying. Maybe I'll go for a walk or something like that to kind of clear my mind. Or if I wake up super depressed and super tired, again, I'll cut down to the bare minimum and the bare essentials. So maybe I had planned to edit a YouTube video that day. I would just say, nope, I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to move that to the weekend. I'm going to move that to later. I'm just going to focus on studying for the test, which is the main thing I need to do, and everything else does not matter. Again, be really okay with changing your schedule, being more flexible, stuff like that can be super duper helpful. So just to kind of sum up this tip, basically with organization, you want to keep it super simple. And I kind of gave an example of how I will organize things, just super simple things like writing out the amount of tasks that you have for the week, distributing them across the week, and then maybe assigning time blocks to them throughout the day. And you'll get better and better at this as time goes on, but be okay with imperfection, be okay with deleting tasks that you don't need to do. If you wake up feeling just super sad, super depressed, be okay with moving things around. That's, totally normal, totally okay. It doesn't matter how productive you are. There are many days where I will just delete most of the tasks I have for the day because they're not things I need to get done. And I need to just focus on stuff that's a priority. Something as well that can really help is having a priority for each task. So studying for a test might be super important. Completing an assignment that's worth a huge part of your grade might be super important. Completing something at work before a big deadline might be super important. But then side projects, you might be able to delegate to the side for a little bit if you do end up feeling depressed or sad, stuff like that. Prioritization really helps. Have stuff that you need to get done, stuff that would be really nice to get done, and then stuff that's super optional that would just be cool to get done if you get the time. Doing that as well can also help. So if you wake up feeling super depressed, only do the need to do stuff. If you wake up feeling pretty good but maybe a little tired, do the stuff that you need to do and then the stuff that would be nice to do. And then if you wake up feeling great, if you're in a good mood swing, you can do everything that you want to do, including the optional stuff. So tip number 4, the final tip, is going to be ABC please. So this is a DBT skill that I'm going to kind of go over, and it's helped me a lot. Each letter stands for something. So the A stands for accumulating joy. So accumulating joy is pretty simple. It's a kind of short-term and a long-term kind of thing. So in the short term, you can accumulate joy by doing things you enjoy every single day. So for example, for me, I really love gaming. So playing video games can be something that, I have a lot of fun doing. Finding, TV shows that I really like, hanging out with friends, friends, hanging out with family. These are super simple things that in the short term you can do to accumulate joy. You can also do stuff in the long term, so like for me, I really want to buy a house. So like saving money for a house can be me accumulating joy. Maybe going and working out or eating healthy, that can also be accumulating joy in the long term more, right? In the short term, maybe it's a little difficult, but in the long term, I will be building joy in my life as I kind of acquire those things. The B stands for building mastery. So building mastery is basically just where you kind of get really good at a skill, right? So for example, if you play guitar for like 5 minutes a day, play piano for 5 minutes a day, maybe you do some programming every single day, building mastery can be super helpful in feeling a lot better. Because the thing is, when you feel out of control, when you feel really, you're spiraling, you have a hard time lowering your anxiety, having something that you're really good at and that you're really competent in can help calm your anxiety, right? If you ever notice people who are really good at guitar, maybe you're really good at an instrument, maybe you have a certain skill you really like, if you do that when you're feeling super anxious or overwhelmed, it can help ground you and bring you back to center because it's something you have a lot of control over, right? So that's why building mastery can help. It can help you gain more confidence in yourself as you see yourself get better and better at a skill as time goes on, but it can also help you in those moments where you get really, frustrated or upset or out of control. It can help ground you and bring you back to center. The C stands for cope ahead. So, this can be stuff like, again, kind of what we were talking about earlier in the video, where you have a plan for when you get super down or depressed, So for me, my plan, again, typically is like, I'll just cut down to the bare minimum or the essentials that I need to get done, and I won't do a ton of optional stuff. This can also be stuff like, suicide safety plans. So like, who are you going to call? What are you going to do to calm yourself down if you do feel suicidal, or if you, maybe feel the need to relapse, stuff like that. Having a plan, people to contact, things to do can really help a lot. Now, PLEASE is a kind of bigger acronym, but we're going to go ahead and go over it. So the PL stands for physical illness. So if you have any kind of physical illness, make sure you're treating that. The E stands for eating. So make sure you're balancing your eating and you're eating very healthy. The A stands for avoid mood altering substances. So avoid drug use. The S stands for maintain good sleep. And then the E stands for exercise. So these are just kind of general things you can keep in mind, like, am I doing all of these things? So let's go ahead and do a quick recap of the whole video. So tip number 1 was to use your intense emotions to your advantage. So when you're feeling really good, really lean into it, get a lot of stuff done, take advantage of that extra motivation. And then when you're feeling really low, that's also okay. Be okay with having some low moments. And when you're in those low moments, take some time off, have some more self-care, stuff like that. It's okay to be a little bit more relaxed when you're feeling down. Tip number 2 is emotional support groups are super valuable. Make sure you're going to some free support groups in your area for mental health, maybe addiction, whatever it is that you really struggle with because of your BPD. Talk to friends and family, and if you have some understanding friends and family, try and explain to them, how you would like to be talked to. Talk about emotional validation and stuff like that. And if you have the money for it, therapy and group therapy can be super helpful. Dialectical behavioral therapy is a gold standard treatment for BPD. Tip number 3 is simple organization. So create an organizational system that's not very complex, easy to follow. And the biggest things that you want to keep in mind when you're making an organizational system is be flexible with it, be okay with deleting stuff, moving stuff around all the time. That's super normal, and will help you be more productive in the long run. And then use prioritization as well. Like have tasks that are high priority, medium priority, and low priority, and kind of use your mood to decide which tasks you're going to do. So maybe you're only doing high priority tasks today because you're super depressed. Maybe you're doing high and medium because you're feeling pretty solid but not great. And maybe you're doing high, low, and medium because you're feeling really good and you just have a lot of energy. And tip number 4 is ABC please. So A, accumulate joy in the short and long term. B is build mastery. C is cope ahead for, crises and stuff like that. And then the please stands for physical illness, which is the PL. The E stands for eating, which is balanced eating. The A stands for avoid mood altering substances. The S stands for maintain good sleep. And then the E stands for exercise. So I hope this video helps. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.